Hey everybody, Mark here. Today I was going to talk about my thoughts on Scarlett Johansson being cast as Motoko Kusanagi in Ghost in the Shell. Uh, Originally that was all this video was going to be, is just talking about that in general, but then whenever I started getting into it, I realized that I was going to actually be talking about a lot more than that. So this is actually going to be a video about just the problem with whitewashing in general, and how I feel about it and how they can do it without being super disrespectful and stuff like that. So we're gonna get right into it. And what brought this on, amongst other things, um, that have been going on in Hollywood in the past for a very long time, is DreamWorks released, I think it was 2 days ago now, um, their first production image of Scarlett Johansson as the Major. Uh, and it's a side view shot of her face, and she's like looking at a reflective surface. Could be a window, could be a fish tank, could be something in uh, the cyberspace section of the movie. Who knows? Can't Not a whole lot to go off of. Uh, so I'm gonna start by talking about just that image itself, which everywhere that I saw it originally, before the internet backlash started, whenever that they just put it out, everything I was seeing was like that picture with the tagline, or with a line that was basically said, love the casting choice or hate it, you can't deny she looks ready to play the role. And what I'll say about that is, no, I can deny that, because all you did was put her in a wig. Like, you could do that with anybody. Hell, you could even have went a step further and actually gave her a real haircut. But at the same time, that doesn't mean she's ready to play the role. I could shave my beard, cut my hair, and dye it black. You couldn't say that I look ready to play the role. Like, that isn't how it works. It's just a damn haircut. Um, so that bothers me. But it bothers me anytime somebody posts something and then like assumes that I'm gonna feel a certain way about it. Like, Cartoon Network and stuff does this all the time with their cartoons, and a bunch of other places do it too. But Cartoon Network's the one that sticks in my head for some reason, with the Teen Titans Go cartoon. Every time there's a commercial for it, the commercial ends with "Teen Titans Go, your new favorite show," and I immediately go, "Fuck you! You don't get to tell me what my new favorite show is, and it's definitely not that piece of shit." So, that right off the bat, you make me angry whenever you just assume how I'm going to feel about something. Um, in my opinion, it's a bad marketing strategy, and I really question, does it work for anybody? Like, has there been a single person who saw that commercial for Teen Titans or sees this image for Ghost in the Shell and was like, well, I didn't think I was going to like it, but they told me that I can't deny it, so I guess I can't deny it. No, fuck you. That's what people are gonna say. Uh, so let's just talk about whitewashing in general, because that's the main problem that everybody has with this, right? And myself included. I'll just, right out of the gate, will say that, full disclosure, I have a problem with this. I'm in that boat. I'm one of those people. But here's why. Let me start by explaining what is going on for those of you who aren't following this. It's DreamWorks is making a movie based off of the Japanese anime and manga called Ghost in the Shell. Ghost in the Shell is a cyberpunk anime set in the future in Japan. The characters in it are Japanese. Motoko Kusanagi, if the name wasn't already a giveaway, is a Japanese person. If you look at her character bio written by the creator of the story, it has her nationality listed as Japanese. They cast Scarlett Johansson, which, don't get me wrong, she's a good actress. I like her. I won't say that I'm like diehard her biggest fan, but I like her. I think she does a good job. But she's white. Very clearly white. She's almost exactly what you would picture in your head if you think, what does a white girl look like? That's Scarlett Johansson. So this becomes an issue because you're taking a beloved franchise that has clearly defined characters, and you're deciding for no real good reason that the main character has to be white. And I'll give the different arguments, okay, that I hear, and then I will counter them to the best of my ability. And if I think they're good arguments, I will let you know. So the first one, and probably the one that I think is the best argument for casting Scarlett Johansson, is Scarlett Johansson, her name alone, puts asses in seats. Like, that's it. It's just, you will sell tickets to this movie just because Scarlett Johansson is in it. And yes, that is true. There are people out there who will buy a ticket to a movie just because Scarlett Johansson is in it, because they like her as an actress, because they think she's hot, because they've seen her in other action roles and go, oh, I like the way she does action. Understandable, completely understandable, and a valid argument that people will go see a Scarlett Johansson movie even if they know nothing else about the story or the franchise. My counter argument to that is you have an established fan base for this already. The reason that this movie, sorry, I have birds in there loud. The reason that this franchise, this property got chosen to be made into a live action movie is because it was popular. They didn't pick one that nobody liked. They picked one that is, I mean, it amongst other anime, it's very popular. Like, especially in America, it was groundbreaking when it came out. There is a lot to it that I'll get into later, but you have a huge fan base for this franchise already. So anybody that you gain by putting Scarlett Johansson in the role, it's very likely that an equal amount of people will decide not to see your movie for the exact same reason, because you picked Scarlett Johansson to play this Japanese character. Now, both sides of the argument are valid. You're losing fans by miscasting, but you're gaining fans by miscasting. I think at the end of the day, it becomes zero sum. The amount of people gained probably is about equal to the amount of people lost. So if you look at it that way, then that choice is unnecessary, right? Okay, so the other argument you will hear that is completely bonkers in my mind, but at the same time I can kind of understand it from just understanding how the human brain works a little bit, which is, God, I don't even want to say it because it makes me angry, this argument. Well, anime characters always look white anyway. They're always drawn white. Right? Like, no, they're not. Okay, let me get into this. They're not. They're not drawn white. The reason you perceive them as white is because you're either white yourself or you are American, where the general idea of what a default human is white. Like, predominantly America is white people. I'm a white people. It's just the way it is. So you have to think of it this way. Whenever American cartoons come out, we just assume if there is no other feature on the character that makes you think otherwise, we just assume they're white because they're predominantly made for a white audience. There's an article that I'll link in the description that goes into this in great detail, and I'm just going to kind of sum it up quicker. But this article, I highly suggest you go read it. It was written in 2010. I don't remember the author of its name off the top of my head, but there will be a link in the description. First off, let's just say, look at American characters like The Simpsons. Okay, specifically Marge Simpson, and this is something that the article that I'm going to link to goes into. You look at that character, and we all just assume she's white. Like, that's just what we do. Because we're Americans, the majority of Americans are white, so there's not enough discerning features to think otherwise, even though her skin is yellow, which I hate to say it because it is racist of me to say, and racist of everybody to say, but it's also just a fact about stereotypes. we normally associate yellow skin with Asians. She also has a huge afro. Something that, again, it's the racism that's inherently built into us. It's stereotyping, but we normally associate afros with black people. But for some reason, we see Marge Simpson and we go, she's a white lady. Now, in this case, we're right to assume that because this is an American cartoon. Whenever they have a black person in the show, they make sure to show you that they're black. They have the darker skin, you know, they have more African American features. But seeing the character of Marge Simpson without seeing any other character from the show, if you just see a screenshot of Marge Simpson, you assume she's white because she was made in America and there weren't enough discerning features to make you think otherwise. So you're like, oh, she's a white woman. This you have to take into account whenever you look at anime, the same thing. Anime, whenever they make it, is not designed for a American audience. It's designed for a Japanese audience. So unless they tell you otherwise, the assumption should be that these characters are Japanese. Motoko Kusanagi. 1, her name is Motoko Kusanagi. 2, the entire setting of the show is Japan. 3, as I mentioned before, you go to her character bio, which was written by the series creator, and I don't know if you know this, internet people, but he gets final say. He made her. He says she's Japanese. So it doesn't matter what you think she looks like, you're wrong. She's Japanese. I could end it there, but I won't. Now, the other thing is, it's a cartoon character. People always point to, like, well, she has blue eyes in some versions of her. In the original movie version, which is on the screen behind me here, it's why I keep pointing back like this, she has black hair and kind of silvery blue eyes. So people will just say blue eyes. Blue eyes, yeah, you can kind of associate with white people. Although, if you know anything about evolution, you know that the blue eye gene actually started in black people. But black hair, that can be anybody. Black people have black hair, white people have black hair, Asians have black hair. Could be anybody. So you go to the eye color. They're blue, but they're kind of silver too. Now, if you're going off of the original movie, and you go to, say, Standalone Complex, the TV series, in that she had purple hair and red eyes. No nationality, ever, has naturally purple hair and naturally red eyes. Just doesn't happen. But that's the thing, is anime doesn't care about that. Anime doesn't base their hair color off of what is real. There are anime characters all over the world that have purple hair or green hair and blue hair. And it isn't that they dyed it that color. They were naturally born with those hair colors. And with blue eyes and green eyes and red eyes and purple eyes and yellow eyes. They don't care about it being real world because the automatic assumption should be that these characters are Japanese. Other than that, they're cartoons. Okay? They don't have to follow the rules of the real world. But if a character bio says they're Japanese, they're Japanese. If the setting is Japan, you should assume that the majority of the characters you'll see are Japanese. Now, on this topic, a lot of people, for some reason, like to bring up, whenever they point out well, a bunch of anime characters are drawn white, and for some reason, I think it's because they don't know what they're talking about, and they just pick anime they've heard. They always jump to Full Metal Alchemist, and I find this funny because they're actually right about Full Metal Alchemist. They show a picture of Edward Elric, and they're like, look, he's white. Blonde hair, blue eyes, white skin, he's white. And here's the thing. Yeah, he actually is. Because, well, technically, there's 2 ways that we could debate this. One, you look at him, and yeah, you see blonde hair, blue eyes, and then you look at the setting, okay? The setting of the anime, which is a fictional world. It's a fictional country. It's called, like, Amherst, I believe, or something like that. Off the top of my head, I don't know the exact name of it, but it's called, like, Amherst, and it is fake. There isn't one in the real world. But the series creator has already said, and it's pretty common knowledge amongst fans of the show, that Amherst, or whatever it is, I'm sorry to all the people who are huge Full Metal Alchemist fans that I'm butchering the name, but people who have watched the show and know that fictional country is heavily based off of Nazi Germany. So it's safe to say, yeah, that character is white because it's basically set in Germany. So he's German. Also, his name is Edward. It's not Motoko. It's not Tanichi. It's not Takashi. It's Edward. So yeah, going off of the things we know about the character and the setting of the anime, it's safe to assume that that one's white. It would also be safe to assume that since it's based in a fictional world with a fictional country, a fictional nation, as we could say, that his nationality is fictional, and he actually might not be white because he doesn't fall into a nationality that currently exists. Both arguments valid, but I could actually understand why you would think Edward Elric is a white kid. Very basic. But Motoko Kusanagi, again, going back to Ghost in the Shell, very, very clearly, she is Japanese. Setting is Japan. Her name is Motoko Kusanagi, so doesn't even have a white surname. And the character creator in her character bio has her nationality and, in the same one, her country of origin, both Japan, both Japanese. Because I could see the argument for like, yeah, her parents were both Japanese, but she was born in America, so her country of origin is America, so we could say she's American. I could see that argument if her country of origin wasn't also listed as Japan. But from Japan, Japanese nationality, she's Japanese. I don't care what you think she looks like, you're wrong. So let's go into this a little bit further with like, look at, thankfully it has been shit canned, but the Akira live action they were planning, where they were, and this, let me preface this a little better, okay? So, the problems with casting Scarlett Johansson as Motoko Kusanagi is very dependent on what do you name the character. And it's a double-edged sword, I guess. I don't know if that's the right analogy. It's lose-lose, I guess, would be better. It's a lose-lose situation, because your two options then after casting Scarlett Johansson as Motoko Kusanagi is you change the character name so that it doesn't have such a Japanese-sounding name on your white character, and you piss off fans. You just do. You piss off fans that are there from the get-go. Before you ever thought about making this into a live-action movie, there have been fans since 1995 when this movie came out. You're pissing those people off. You just are. There's no way around it. Or, two, you leave her name the same, and then you have Scarlett Johansson, a very obviously white woman, getting called Motoko Kusanagi, and that's just gonna be odd. Like, I'm sorry, it just is. Whenever standard moviegoers go in to see this movie, and someone on screen goes, "Hey, Motoko," and Scarlett Johansson goes, "What?" They're gonna go, that's her name? Okay. Weird. Like, it's gonna take people out of it. I'm sorry, maybe it's our inherent racism again, but we hear the name Motoko, we don't expect it to be associated with a white woman. It's just the way it is. I'm sorry that that's the way it is. I wish it wasn't, but it is. So, with that, in that vein, like, look at what they were going to do to Akira. If the script leaked after it got shit canned, they were going to take... There's so many problems with this movie. They were going to take Akira and the characters Kaneda and Tetsuo, who in the original manga and movie were 14-year-olds from Japan who were Japanese. And they were going to have, like, Keanu Reeves, and I don't know who they had pegged for Tetsuo, but it was going to be another white guy. And then they had Kristen Stewart they were trying to get for K. And I don't remember the name they were switching K to. They actually probably could have left it K. But they were changing the name of Kaneda to Kevin and Tetsuo to Travis. Yeah, piss people off. They were also having 40-year-old men play 14-year-old boys. They also changed the setting from Neo Tokyo to Neo New York. They changed the plot that is originally entirely a metaphor about going through puberty. That's entirely what Akira is. It's about your body going through transformations that you don't understand and being angry for no reason and all this stuff, on top of a second layer of just the juvenile delinquency problem that was and still is a major issue in Japan, and the fear, and third layer here, the fear of at any given time your entire country could be wiped out. Now, in this, it was because of a nuclear blast kind of thing, but even look right now, like this week, as I'm writing this, there was just a huge, as I'm making this video, there's just a huge earthquake in Japan. And Japan is a small island. These kinds of things could be completely devastating and wipe out the entire country. Something America doesn't have to deal with. But so America, to change it whenever they're going to make this live action, we're making it about 9/11. Which, one, cash grab much? Of course, people, you're pulling at that. Like, people worry about 9/11 still. People are, it hits us hard as Americans. It just does. And Hollywood is totally fine with just latching onto that and sucking it dry and exploiting it, and they shouldn't. I mean, hell, the opening scene in the script was like young Kaneda or Kevin and Travis Tetsuo watching two buildings get knocked down, and their mom, which also that's the thing, they're changing these two characters that were just childhood friends who both grew up in an orphanage to brothers who have the same mom. Watching these buildings fall, and the mom says, "Never forget." Okay, so, and here's the thing, and this is a point that I wanted to get to already anyway. You can change things whenever you adapt an anime to an American live action movie. You can. And you can do it, and me be fine with it. You can make the characters all white. You can change the setting from Tokyo to New York. You can do that. But you have to do it right, and you have to do it respectfully. And one of the major things that you need to do is don't call it the same thing. They were going to make that movie, Akira, and they were going to change everybody in it to white people, and they were going to set it in New York, and they were still going to call it Akira. Now, I'll go on to say, at least they were going to keep the Akira character in it. There was going to be a little Japanese boy named Akira, who is going to be the villain. He's going to be completely different from the original Akira, who is a kid with psychic powers that the government had been experimenting on, who then, like, they ended up basically killing, but because he was so powerful that he kind of had this psychic hold even after he was dead, and he's influencing things still, they were gonna instead make him be a creepy little Japanese boy who goes around singing Frere Jacques, which is a French song, for no fucking reason. Like, no one does that. They were just like, what's creepy? Let's make him creepy. And we're out of, like, every other weird kids song has already been taken in other horror movies, so let's give him Frere Jacques. So they were going to do that and then still call the movie Akira, and it wasn't going to be Akira. That's just the thing of it. Like, that isn't going to be the same movie. It's not the same franchise. It's not the same property. Ghost in the Shell is a weird one because they cast Scarlett Johansson in the lead role as Motoko Kusanagi, and I can't remember the other guy, but another, like, white actor to play Bato, but then beat Takeshi to play Amagi, the leader of Section 9. So it's weird to me, because they also, from what I understand, have a couple other Japanese characters lined up to play other members of the team. It's just like, okay, so you were casting Japanese people, you just refused to cast them in the lead role. again, it goes back, I guess, to the Scarlett Johansson puts asses in seats argument, but it makes it really odd that you didn't even get, like, I would have expected, like, Ken Watanabe, a Japanese actor who is primarily in America and in American movies right now anyway. Beat Takeshi is a Japanese actor from Japan. All of his best known work is Japanese work. Uh, Battle Royale and Outrage and Sonatine and Zatoichi. Like, you went out of your way to get somebody from a different country to come over to do this. And here's the thing, we have plenty of Japanese actors and actresses in America that you could have picked. The girl from Pacific Rim, I think, would have been perfect. And from what I can tell, the internet agrees with me. Which, again, I'll be clear, just because the internet says it doesn't mean it's true. Just because people are loud about it on the internet doesn't make it a thing. It doesn't mean it's accurate, and it doesn't mean it speaks for the majority, but I think it's safe to say that, like, she would have done a great job. I wonder if they even considered it, and I'm betting they did. But it just, again, to the point, you went out of your way to hire an actor from Japan. Why not do this for the lead role? And then back to the point on, well, Scarlett Johansson puts asses in seats. Yeah, she does. For the initial release. So whenever it hits theaters, yeah, you might get a decent box office. But don't you want to make a movie that after it leaves theaters, people go buy? Don't you want to have a movie that once it comes out, people continue to watch it and want a sequel and, you know, stuff like that? If you're doing it clearly from a money or solely from a money making standpoint, doesn't it make more sense to do it right so that you have a chance to continue to make money off of it after the opening weekend? So yeah, maybe putting the Japanese woman from Pacific Rim in wouldn't have gotten you just as big of a box office hit in the opening weekend, but if the movie is done right and done well, it'll keep selling and people will see it opening weekend. It might not be the same amount that would see it if Scarlett Johansson was in it, but then some of them will go back and see it the next weekend and go back and see it the next weekend. And then whenever it comes out, they'll buy it on Blu-ray. And then whenever you come out with a special edition, they'll buy that. And whenever you come out with a sequel, they'll go see it multiple times and then buy that when it comes out on Blu-ray. If you make a shit movie, people will go see it once and then tell all their friends to never go see it because it's a pile of shit. I mean, for reference, look at Dragon Ball Evolution. Dragon Ball Evolution, I went and saw in theaters because it was Dragon Ball. I knew going in because, just like this movie, they completely whitewashed it. But I knew going in it wasn't going to be good because of that. But there were plenty of other people that just saw the Dragon Ball name, were Dragon Ball fans, and went, I'm going to go see the live-action Dragon Ball movie. And they went and they paid their $10 at the time, what would now be 15. And then they came out of it and said, what a horrendous pile of shit. They took to the internet, bashed it everywhere, told all their friends, anime fan or not, do not go see this pile of shit movie. Most of those people listened and didn't go see it, and now it's one of the lowest rated movies of all time. And especially if you're going for like anime or comic book adaptation movies, I think it has like a 9% on Rotten Tomatoes right now, like maybe a 7. I think it's absolutely one of the lowest. Like, I don't believe that was their goal when they set out to make that movie. Is let's make a terrible movie that people will see once or never and then try to forget, like actively try to forget exists. So I'm sorry, if you're looking at it from a money-making standpoint, you're better off making it correctly and making a good movie than getting asses in the seats because you paid $10 million to have Scarlett Johansson in this movie, but then you made the movie suck, so nobody wanted to watch it again. Just, in my mind anyway, that seems like, a worse idea than just doing it right. So let's talk about how they could do it correctly, because this is becoming kind of a long video. Look at, I can't remember what year it came out, I think it was 2012 or 2013, Edge of Tomorrow with Tom Cruise and I'm blanking on the female's name. Emily Blunt, I believe. Good movie. I enjoyed it. I actually really enjoyed it. And it's based off of a manga with Japanese characters. But the manga was called All You Need Is Kill. So here's what they did. They went, hey, we're going to get the rights to this manga, and we're going to make it into an American live-action movie. But we understand that in order to Americanize it, we have to change things to make it appeal more to American audiences. So we're going to make the characters white, we're going to change their names to be American names, and we're going to change the setting, and we're going to change the name. We're not going to call it All You Need Is Kill, because we're technically not making All You Need Is Kill. We're making a movie that's based off of All You Need Is Kill. Same idea. Magnificent Seven, a classic Western. One of the great Western movies. Based off of Seven Samurai, an Akira Kurosawa movie that is awesome. It's a great, old, very highly regarded Japanese samurai movie. They decided to make it into an American movie. They realized, whenever they were doing it, yeah, we have to make this appeal to American audiences. So let's make them white. Let's set it in the Old West. Let's not have cowboys running around with names like Gorobe and Kyuzo. So let's call it Magnificent Seven instead, and instead of saying that this is a Seven Samurai movie, it's based off of Seven Samurai. And that's all you have to do to not be completely disrespectful to the source material. Is instead of saying you're making Ghost in the Shell, why don't you make a movie that is based off of Ghost in the Shell, but is American, set in America, with American actors. Very easy. Chewie, why are you being so loud? Sorry. Yeah, but that's all you have to do it correctly and like respectfully and not completely piss off the fans. And, you know, not kill part of your fan base right off the bat, and then not make it be really awkward whenever you go see a movie and see a white person playing a character named Motoko. You just change everything, including the name. And, again, the argument I've heard countering this, or attempting to counter this, is, well, then you don't get the box office draw of having it associated with that already existing franchise. You don't get to say, hey, we're making a Ghost in the Shell movie, and you don't pique the interest of Ghost in the Shell fans. But actually you do. And you do it better, in my opinion, because you can all you have to do is say in the trailers for it, based off of Ghost in the Shell. Boom. People hear Ghost in the Shell. Then, 2, you're not pissing off Ghost in the Shell fans whenever they watch your trailer and go, why is Motoko Kusanagi white? They go, oh, okay, this is based off of it. It's not an exact adaptation. It's meant to be different. Just based off of it, tackling the same themes. Okay, yeah, we'll go for that. You know, it's why is this hard? So you don't piss off your pre-existing fan base. You get to use that Ghost in the Shell name for recognition. And then you also can draw in the American audience that isn't familiar with the Japanese property. Sounds like a better idea to me. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe, you know, I'm not in marketing, I'll admit that. I'm not part of Hollywood, but just as a consumer, that just is more appealing to me, and I think it'd be more appealing to most people. So yeah, that's all you really have to do. Like, why is that difficult? Why not do that? Sorry, had to calm him down. So yeah, it doesn't make sense to me that there are ways that this has worked in the past. Like, if you look at the Dragon Ball Evolution movie and you look at Edge of Tomorrow, one of them clearly did better. Edge of Tomorrow. Why not follow their example instead of the failures example? I mean, it just it's so weird. And then let's get on to just another topic about whitewashing in general, because one of the things that I keep hearing while I'm debating this with people online and stuff, or as some people would call it, being in a flame war, um, is okay. So at the same time, like recently, this same week, a trailer came out for Doctor Strange, the Marvel movie. Um, in it, a character known as the Ancient is played by Tilda Swinton, I think is her name. It's Tilda something. I can't remember her last name. But it's a character that in the comics was an old Japanese man. Why not? Why am I not as outraged about that? Where's my outrage for that? Why am I not pissed? And here, it's very simple. I'll explain it. I'm not as pissed about that because I didn't know. Plain and simple. I'm not a huge Doctor Strange fan. I know who he is, mainly from his crossovers with characters I did read, like Spider-Man and the Avengers and stuff like that. So I'm aware of that character. I know he's like a sorcerer who used to be a doctor, stuff like that. I know basics, but I didn't know that the Ancient was supposed to be Asian. There's this thing that happens where just because I'm a fan of, say, Ghost in the Shell, does not automatically make me a fan of every other property out there that happens to have Asian characters in it. Big surprise, huh? Yeah, it's the reason I wasn't outraged about it is because I watched that trailer and had no idea. Because it isn't something I'm familiar with, and unlike a lot of people on the internet, I do my best to not like form opinions and then go rant on the internet about something I don't know. Like I have no information about, and I just don't have any idea about it, so I don't make a video or start fighting with people online about it because I'm not informed enough. Ghost in the Shell I do know. I've watched the movie in my lifetime, I don't know, hundreds of times probably. Um, I've been watching it since 1995. I've had two different versions of it on DVD. I owned the VHS of it, and I have bought two different Blu-rays of it. Of just that movie. I also own the complete standalone complex uh, TV series. I also own all of the mangas. I do not currently own Arise for two reasons. One, Arise isn't very good, and two, it's on Crunchyroll, so I don't have to own it. I have a Crunchyroll subscription. I can just watch it on there. Um, or it's either on Crunchyroll or the Funimation uh, streaming service. Either way, I have a subscription to that streaming service. I can watch it without owning it, and it, in my opinion, wasn't good enough for me to buy, especially whenever I already have access to it. But yeah, I know Ghost in the Shell. I've been a fan for a long time, um, so I can form an intelligent and educated opinion about this. Um, and let me talk about that a little bit more too, just the idea of opinions in general about things like this. Because, yeah, whether or not a movie is good, like whenever you give a review of a movie, that's entirely a matter of opinion. Um, in that, the way opinions work, you can't be wrong. You can say a movie is complete garbage, everybody else can say it's really good. Neither of you are wrong, because it's a matter of opinion whether or not you personally enjoyed that movie. On the other hand, what nationality a character is a matter of fact. Motoko Kusanagi is Japanese. That's a fact. If you form an opinion that is different than that fact, your opinion can be wrong because we have a fact that you're going against. That's the way this works. There are matters of opinion, whether or not a movie is good, whether or not food tastes good, whether or not a chair is comfortable. These are matters of opinion. It will vary from person to person, and no person can be wrong about it. Then there are matters of fact, whether or not food is edible, whether or not a movie is an hour and a half long, whether or not a character is of a certain nationality. These are matters of fact. You can be wrong. And in this case, if you're saying Motoko Kusanagi is anything but Japanese, you are wrong. Plain and simple, you're wrong. Doesn't matter what you think the character was drawn like. Doesn't matter how you feel about it. You're wrong. The character is Japanese. You should get a Japanese actress or change everything about the movie and call it something different, and don't call the character Motoko Kusanagi. Which, by the way, I will go out and say, we currently don't know if in the live action she will be named Motoko Kusanagi. Right now they're just calling her the Major. And I think it's honestly because they haven't fully decided yet. That's where I'm at with it. They haven't fully decided whether or not, which way of that internet hate they want to go with. Do they want to get slammed for having a white woman named Motoko Kusanagi, or do they want to get slammed for changing a Japanese character's name to, I don't know, Mary or something? Um, but yeah, like this is getting to be a 45-minute long video. I'll probably cut it down. But yeah, that's my stance on it. If you have a problem with anything I said, fuck off. Actually, no. Comment section. We'll talk about it. Um, but just make sure in the comment section, if we're talking about a matter of fact, base your opinion on fact. Otherwise, your opinion is invalid. Like, just by definition. Thank you. Uh, but yeah, that's where I stand on uh, Scarlett Johansson as Motoko Kusanagi, whitewashing in general. There are ways to do it that I wouldn't consider it whitewashing. I would consider it Americanizing, and it's weird. It is, but it seems less racist. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe it's just as racist, but for some reason I'm more okay with it. But it just feels to me, end of the day, final point, it seems to me that if you're going to change everything about it anyway, go ahead and change the title. Don't call your movie Akira. Say it's based off of Akira. Don't call your movie Ghost in the Shell. Say it's based on Ghost in the Shell. Don't call your movie All You Need Is Kill. Call it Edge of Tomorrow. That's the point I'm going to end on. Comment section below. Like if you liked it. Share it if you think it was that good. Uh, either way, thanks for watching, especially if you stuck through the whole thing. I don't know. Let's see what comes down the pipe with this, huh? Later.